Hello y'all, it's Valerie here from Pisces Mountain Farm, and today's project I'm going to be showing you how I use that fruit that I've been drying in my greenhouse. I have a video that I made a couple weeks back that shows how I've been using my greenhouse as a huge dehydrator. Today I wanted to show you what I've been using that dried fruit for. So let's go into my greenhouse and get just a little handful of fruit that I've got drying specifically for this demonstration, and I'll meet you over there. As you can imagine, it's quite hot in my greenhouse, so I'm going to go in and grab this fruit and then come out and explain to you what I'm doing. I'm in my greenhouse here, and the thing I've been using my dried fruit for is to flavor my grain alcohol. The reason we use dried fruit is because it dehydrates the water from the fruit while keeping the flavor, and whenever you add fruit to your grain alcohol, you don't want to change the alcohol per volume. And so by putting dehydrated fruit in, you're mixing less water in with your alcohol, and it's less likely to change the proof. So if you start off with, say, I'm just throwing a crazy number out there, 100 proof, and you put a bunch of, say, really watery fruit in it, it's going to add water to your alcohol, changing the alcohol content. So if you get that fruit good and dry, it saves all those flavors, but it doesn't change your alcohol proof. These are a few strawberries I have dehydrated, and what you do is you take your dehydrated fruit, you drop it into your alcohol, and you just let it sit for 6 weeks. Now, what I do after this point is I make sure that I write down the date on a lid, and I put my lid back on, and then I shake that jar up really, really well, and then I set it in my refrigerator. And what you're going to need to do is, in about 6 weeks, you take that fruit out and you strain it, and that's going to give you your flavored alcohol. Now, if you have enough fruit and you're still producing, after the first 6 weeks, if you want to strain that fruit out and then put another round of fruit in, you can, and then wait another 6 weeks and do the same thing. Whenever I add my alcohol to my jar, I leave a head space. So that way, as the liquid gets displaced from the heaviness of the fruit, there's room. If you don't have enough fruit all at once to flavor your alcohol, you can go ahead and dehydrate them and pop them in a freezer bag until you have enough fruit to flavor your alcohol. Honestly, for a jar this size, I just stuff it with fruit until the liquid line right here rises up. Once it's risen, I put the lid on and I shake it. So basically, the more head space you leave, the more fruit you're going to be able to fit in. I honestly am still coming up with the ratios I prefer, and some people might like it more flavored than less flavored, so I don't really have an exact ratio to give you, but I would start with at least a half cup of dried fruit. So once the fruit is dried, at least half a cup, that's what I would start with. And then once you taste it, if it's not strong enough, you can do another round of fruit. Alright, I'm going to go forward in time now and show you the straining process. See you in 6 weeks. We've had our dehydrated fruit sitting in our jar of grain alcohol for about 6 weeks now. Every once in a while I would go through and shake this just to mix the fruit up. And I also kept this just in the back of my refrigerator. And now is the time to strain it, and so I'm going to show you how I do that. What I have here is my jar of alcohol that I'm going to be straining. I have another jar that's bigger and will hold all the liquid from the first jar. And then I bought this cheesecloth from Walmart, and I found it in the canning section. I wasn't quite sure where to look for it. I know that if your Walmart still has a sewing display, a sewing area, then you could probably find it in a bowl and have it cut to how much ever you need still. But if not, they do have this. In my Walmart, it's in the canning section. I also have a few rubber bands that will fit around the mouth of my jar. This cheesecloth is very long, so I'm just going to cut it because I don't need that much. I'm going to personally fold it a few times because if any seeds have come out of the fruit, I want it to catch those. And then I'm going to put it over the lid of my jar. I'm going to push it down a little bit so it creates a pocket. And then I'm going to take my rubber bands and put it over the mouth of my jar. Do it one at a time because if you don't, they're going to pop off. Leave in my pocket. Alright, now I'm going to slowly pour my alcohol into the jar. I also maybe should have included a bowl and a spoon into your supply list or any kind of receptacle, but as it drains you're going to find your cloth filling up with fruit. I just scoop my fruit off into the bowl and then I'm able to pour more. You can take your fruit. You can take the fruit that's left over once you're done and take your cheesecloth and squeeze it out and get every last bit of alcohol and juice out of that. What I'm personally going to do with mine is I've got a few different types of fruit that I have flavoring my alcohol right now, and so I'm going to take the fruit I strain out of here, or the fruit I collect out of here, and I'm going to strain it into a separate jar that will be a mixture of every single thing I'm flavoring with this year, just to see how that turns out. I am letting this drip a little bit before I take my fruit out of it. Now that I've got all the fruit out of my jar, I like to take my jar and give it a quick rinse just to get any of these little bits out. And I'm going to let it sit and thoroughly air dry, and then I'm going to transfer my alcohol back into this vessel here. As far as your cheesecloth is concerned, what I like to do is I just take these and personally I hand wash them and hang them to dry. It'll leave a little stain, but it will be reusable that way. If you put it in the washer and dryer, that can work as well. You do, however, take the chance of it becoming tangled in something else and the little fibers ripping apart and making a bigger hole. I am going to leave this over the jar so that way nothing flies into it. It's a little while later and my jar's dried. I'm going to take my alcohol and pour it back into my jar. This is what I am left with. I figured I should probably go ahead and do a little taste test. I'm not going to do very much, I'm just doing a spoonful. I will say up front, it has a burn. It tastes like what it is. It's pretty shiny. But on the back end, it tastes a lot like berries. Personally, I like to just store mine in the refrigerator, so that's what I'm going to do. You're supposed to keep it in a cool, dark place, out of the direct sunlight, and for me, the refrigerator is the best place to do that, so mine will go back in there. I just take a marker and I put a little F, and then I write the date it was finished on. So that was finished on 8/21. It started on 7/23, or 7/2, I'm sorry, 7/2/2023, and it's finished on 8/21. So now I have this leftover fruit. I'll take my bowl and flip it so that now all of my fruit that is spent, all those dewberries and strawberries, are in my cheesecloth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the juice out of it, because this is still full of your grain alcohol. Also, I did wash my hands. Make sure your hands are clean for this. Alright, I got a little bit out of there. I'm going to take this juice that's left over and I'm going to pour it in a jar. And I plan on doing that to all my fruits, different various flavors, such as I have peach, I'm going to do ground cherry. But anyways, I'm going to take all the different mixtures and I'm basically going to do a mixed fruit jar at the very end that takes all the juice I'm able to squeeze out. And so that way we're not wasting any of it. And if you want to, you can take like a masher and mash it, like some kind of metal masher, like a meat tenderizer. You could use the head of that to kind of mash it. I just chose to use my hands because that's what I have available to me right now. Alright guys, that is how you use fruit to flavor your grain alcohol. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.